What's up, guys? Today I wanted to show you guys a process of how I find profitable liquidity pools and how to use Gecko Terminal to do that faster and easier. I use this exact process to find this ETH and AI XBT pool that I just got into. And you can see sometimes my positions dip negative and then it swings back up to be in profit again. But overall, I'm still in net profit on my open and closed positions. So if you're new here, my name is Richard, and I try my best in these videos to teach you the most I can about yield farming and how to earn passive income from your crypto. So if we hop to Gecko Terminal, you could see that a lot of these tokens are going to be meme coins or new tokens that are trending if you don't put on any filters. And sometimes these pools could be profitable, but a lot of times it could be also much higher risk. So what we're going to do here is to click that filter button, and you can have your own parameters. But what I found working well for me is just this $50,000 worth of liquidity. And this is quite a bit lower than what a lot of yield farmers have. Some people set like 100,000 or 200,000, 500,000. But I found if you're yield farming medium to lower cap tokens, sometimes there's really good pools that are slightly above 50,000 or even $30,000 range. And those is fine as long as you don't put too much capital in, and there's other bigger pools on the same chain that you could swap out of. So the fully diluted value, I like to start with 100 million if I want to go with like a medium to high risk. And you could bump that up to like 200 million or 500 million if you're looking for like a medium to low risk pool. And the volume for the liquidity, you want to add a number that makes sense for the liquidity, right? In this case, I'm going to use 10,000. Pool age, I'm going to use 480 hours, roughly 20 days, because sometimes people put liquidity into new pools that could be profitable on a more established token. And I like to sort by volume. So hit save and then it's going to load. So if you sort by volume, you're going to see a lot of blue chip assets like ETH to USDC, SOL to USDC. But there are going to be some meme coins that are larger cap, for example, Trump to USDC or Bitcoin to Bitcoin pairs, wrap BTC and ETH. And the past few days, like stuff like Virtual and ETH has been popping off. And basically throughout this process, I'm looking down the list and see which assets that I'm interested in investing in. For example, if I see this Bitcoin and SOL pool here, and I see, okay, there's like almost 11 million in volume, and the liquidity is only 1.91 million. If that's something I'm interested in, then I'm going to dive deeper. But here I'm just scanning different pools, right? For example, you can see a Sonic pool here. And this is if you want to find like more blue chip assets. And I can change my filter here to sort by trending 24 hours too, if I want to look at a trending token. So here, on the trending page, you're going to be able to see lower cap tokens, and you could sort by volume once again. But if I don't, you could see AI XBT, Brett, Farcoin, AI16Z, Pepe, Pangu, Degen, a lot of different projects and meme coins that are smaller cap. You could see XRP, Sui, Hondo. And one more thing you could do is if you want to sort by both trending and volume, you want to click on this volume tab. And when I do that, there is going to be some blue chip pools here, but I could still see like Farcoin and SOL is pulling, for example, $26 million in volume in the last 24 hours with roughly 7.7 million of liquidity. And here you could even see stuff like Bitcoin and AVAX for a more blue chip pool. So that's a good pool to dive deeper into. And then I ended up choosing this AI XBT and ETH pool. So if I clicked on that AI XBT and ETH pool, it's not very clear which DEX it's on. It took me a while to find, but maybe that's my own issue. But the DEX is here, the Aerodrome Slipstream. And here is the ETH chart, and you could also look at the US dollar chart. And if you want to find out like the fee tier of this particular pool, you just want to scroll down, and here is what is the trading fee. And then here in this pool is 0.3%. I personally don't like to provide a lot of liquidity on Aerodrome because people concentrate their liquidity a lot on Aerodrome, which makes like the wider range strategy not as effective. And people often automate like the process there, right? So the liquidity concentration is often higher than a Uniswap pool. So once you see that, okay, this is something you're interested in, then I'm going to look at the chart. So if I draw this downward trend line here, this token has clearly broken its downtrend based on the trend line and also on the moving averages. This blue line is the 20-period exponential moving average. And when that acts as support, usually the token is on an uptrend, especially if it's crossing over the 50-period simple moving average. So that's why I invested in this token. It seems to be reversing to the upside. And there's also some solid fundamentals and narrative behind it. But I'm not going to waste time like doing more research if the chart looks absolutely horrible. There's no buying pressure at all. There's no sign that people are actually bullish on this token. So that's why I want to do some basic technical analysis at this stage. So now that the token looks kind of bullish and the APR looks good at a glance, right? Because the volume is much higher than the liquidity, especially with a 0.3% fee tier pool or a 1% fee tier pool, then I'm going to try to find the best pools. And the first thing I want to do is I want to copy this address here. I paste it in the search bar and you can see there's a bunch of different pools here. And it depends on which assets you want to provide liquidity for. For example, there's an AI XBT and USDC. If you want more stability and you don't want too much volatility. If you want full market exposure, you could go with this AI XBT with virtual pool or like these AI XBT with Ethereum pools. And these volume and liquidity numbers are actually pretty important. You want to kind of compare like the volume relative to the liquidity. For example, if you're providing liquidity for AI XBT and virtual and you want to do it on Uniswap V2 here on base, you could see the volume is not that high and the liquidity is quite high, right? Compared to this V3 pancake swap pool, the volume is much higher than the liquidity. So just at a glance, you could probably tell this pool would probably have a higher APR, and then you start to dive deeper on that. But my goal for this pool is to either outperform holding these assets or to accumulate more Ethereum. That's why I'm going to pick one of this AI XBT and Ethereum pool. So like I mentioned earlier, even though Aerodrome has a lot of volume, I personally prefer Uniswap for a lot of these pools, simply because typically there's less liquidity concentration. So if I'm strictly looking at the Uniswap V3 pool and I want to accumulate Ethereum, then it makes sense to look at these Ethereum pool on Uniswap, for example, this one, compared to this lower liquidity, lower volume pair also on Uniswap. So once I'm in here again, I could scroll down and see what the fee tier is. This is trading on the 1% fee tier. And to get an average volume, you could simply go to this volume indicator here and go to style. Tick on this volume moving average. You could use the length depending on how long you want to average the volume. 20 is pretty good. You could use 30, 60, or 90 if you want to look at like longer term trends. And this blue number would show you like the average, right? If I move my mouse to January, for example, then the average volume is actually very high at 1.7 million. Now it's roughly only at 42K. But 42K on a 127K liquidity pool is pretty great to me, especially on the 1% fee tier. And a nice thing you could do is you could also make a watch list. For example, I created a low cap pool watch list that I added this pool in, and you can see it here on the tokens that I've added. So I used to use Dex Screener for a lot of these processes, but I find that the Gecko terminal is actually quite good to do the same thing. So that's pretty much like the bulk of the scanning portion. You can see I've found a high volume pair that I'm bullish on. And then the next step is to use other platforms like Metrics Finance or Revert to kind of like simulate the position performance. But that's for another video. And if you want to learn how to simulate position, like this video is a good watch, or how to calculate like your apparent loss, then this video is a good watch. But that's the scanning process here. And if we look at this flow chart, I basically ran through the whole process in this video except for the deeper research part, because that's typically more time consuming. So this is the top-down approach where you start wide and then you narrow in on the best pool. At first, I find like high APR pools, right? I don't care which token it is, as long as it's not like a very small cap new token. I look at the charts because the charts tell a story, right? Chart is going to let me know, okay, who is buying, and I want to see if it's going sideways, if it's trending up, or if it's trending down. And when you're providing liquidity, it's a good idea to try to find tokens that are either moving sideways or about to trend up. Then the deeper research part, you want to do some research on it, make sure that the token is solid. Then you want to optimize by finding the best pool, where we basically paste the token address in the search bar and look for the best performing pools. And again, you guys could play with the filters, right? If you don't want to go for the low cap tokens, then I could also bump up my liquidity to like 100,000, FTV to like 500 million. Volume, I could keep it at 10,000, pool age 480, and then I'm gonna sort by trending 24 hours. So here, there will still be meme coins like Brett, Trump, Pepe, and Pengu, but now we're going deeper into like larger cap memes that are likelier to stay around for longer. And again, I could double filter with the volume here, but now I'm starting to see more like blue chip assets like Solana, and maybe even Camino, Virtual, Radium to Sol, Link to ETH, Ondo ETH, Arrow ETH, Bonk to Sol, XRP to BNB, right? And this basically gives you like the bird's eye view. Again, you could compare like the 24-hour volume very easily with the liquidity. And the nice thing is if you click on the chart, you could basically see how bullish this token is trading. For example, XRP is trading at $2. I could look at the price chart in BNB terms and then add it to my watch list. For example, this is a large cap pool. Then you don't have to keep screening for new pools. This is especially useful if you have like more and more capital to invest from yield farming. You don't have to keep doing this process over and over again, right? So I hope that makes sense, guys. I hope this whole process helps. And I could do the reverse also. I could look at which tokens I want to provide liquidity for first. I go through like this deeper research process, and then I look at the chart, then I look at the APR, then I look at like the best pools. That strategy might be good for larger caps, but a lot of times if you're finding a lot more different tokens to diversify into, then you're going to be spending a lot of time researching tokens that might not even have high APR or the chart looks terrible, right? And if you guys want to learn more about yield farming and how I've been net profitable while earning 25 to 75% APR on my capital pretty safely, then watch more of my videos. I really want to help more yield farmer and crypto investors like you to basically make more money. And in the process, I would grow my channel and make more money in the long term as well, right? So it's a win-win thing. I really try my best to give a lot of value in this video. So I hope you guys liked it. If you did, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and if you want to be notified, then be sure to click on that bell notification icon as well. Thank you once again for watching. I'll catch you guys next time.